Hello everyone and welcome back to Always Watching. Today we are discussing the new F1 movie and this really exceeded my expectations. Briefly, the film follows Sonny Hayes, a washed up F1 driver, given the opportunity of a lifetime. I was expecting a high octane, adrenaline rushed, action packed film like Top Gun Maverick. Instead, we get something far more sentimental and more meaningful. This movie is such a beautiful testament to anyone who feels like they've run out of time to achieve their dreams or their best days are behind them. I thought Damson Idris delivered a star-making performance. We knew he was a great actor, but this really solidified his place as a movie star, and I think acting alongside Brad Pitt and Javier Bardem is not easy because these are two actors that really demand your attention. They really take up space in a film. And Damson comes in and he not only takes up space, he actually overshadows them in a lot of scenes. I was very impressed by the cast. Every character was given a clear purpose. They were given enough screen time and enough depth to really add to the story. We are introduced to Sonny, a washed up F1 driver struggling to get by, and Joshua, a young man trying to make his presence known. Sonny is given the opportunity of a lifetime by a former colleague, Ruben, played by Javier Bardem. Halfway through the film, we learned that Sonny was in a near-fatal car accident during one of his races, which not only ended his racing career, but shattered his passion for driving. Before receiving Ruben's offer, Sonny had found a quiet sense of peace, competing at any level. At this point in his career, he had given up competing for glory. It was more about love for the sport. I thought Brad Pitt gave a phenomenal performance as this very scared, resentful, sad driver and man. He agrees to return not for redemption, but because some part of him feels incomplete, like there is something unresolved he needs to face. The pain he endured from that near-fatal accident left scars both emotionally and physically. And over time, it had become harder to use the accident as an excuse to retreat from the world. Taking this offer gives him a chance to not only confront who he is, but let go of who he was and who he hoped to become. And in doing so, he ends up not only becoming greater than what he believed was possible at this point in his life, but really accomplishing the sense of peace that has eluded him up until now. I love how the story developed the team. There are several cameos from famous F1 drivers. However, they're not given substantial roles. Their only job is to really emphasize how out of their league this small NASCAR team really is. Apex is what I would describe the bottom of the top of the world, even though they are able to compete at a high level. They're barely doing it. And I guess everyone has to start somewhere. And I think one of the points this movie makes very well is perspective is everything. You can either see the glass as half full or half empty. And this very much determines how far you will be able to go. Ruben, played by Javier Bardem, is the head of this failing team, and he's very desperate. His team is made up of oddballs and outcasts, and essentially he's just hoping for a miracle. And I think what I liked about Javier Bardem's character is because the movie's able to weave in this business side of things, and it's not a big part of the film, but what it does is it really emphasizes that winning means totally different things depending on the department you're in. Ruben is in a very difficult position because if he's not able to at least show that this team has the potential to go far, he'll lose everything. I think Javier Bardem did this fantastic job of playing this man, faking it until you make it, but he's kind of reached the limits of faking it. He's at the point where he's really going to have to make it. I thought Carrie Condon did an excellent job as Kate. Like everyone else on this team, she's never really found a place where she could truly shine. And having talent is half the battle, but finding a place where your talents can be fully utilized is a whole other struggle. Although there is this love story between Sonny and Kate, it never really distracts from the main story. I think her character did a great job of balancing between Joshua and Sonny. She was kind of this middleman between them. Joshua, played by Damson Idris, is the complete opposite of Sonny, and Damson had a very difficult task here because he's playing this young man who's more obsessed with being perceived as great than actually achieving greatness, and he has to play the character in a way where all these nuances are shown without becoming caricature. And I think what I loved about his performance is that he really is just a kid with big dreams and he's scared. And I think the characters around him did a great job of building his character. He has this raggedy friend that's always forcing him to post and try to make as much money as possible. And he's not taking advantage of him, but It's a small role, but he's utilized really well because normally characters like this are there to make sure they're focused on the job and they're doing their best to become the greatest driver of all time. But this character is really funny because he doesn't really care about whether or not Joshua is driving well. He cares that he's being perceived as a great driver, and I thought that was a nice twist to that type of role. I also really like Joshua's relationship to his mother because, again, she really emphasizes the fact that this is a young kid who's just at the start of his career, and being part of this team could actually end his career before it begins. Looking at Sonny is very frightening for someone like Joshua because he could actually end up like him, but a lot sooner. The pacing of the film was at first extremely frustrating. There's a lot of setbacks, there's a lot of starts and stops. Just when you're kind of getting in the rhythm of things, you're thrown off. And with each race, it feels like they take one step forward and 2 steps back. And with every setback, everyone on this team has to really think about why they're doing what they're doing and how they're going to achieve the results they desire, whether that means changing their car, changing their attitude, changing the way they work together. And I think the pacing actually mirrors each character's journey really well. And the build up to the final race is not actually as intense as you would expect. In fact, by the time we get to this final race, you're exhausted and it feels like the real victory is just having made it to this race. And I think sometimes half the battle is really just showing up. I think there's what you do and how you do it. Over time, Joshua and Sonny have learned not just to tolerate each other, but to appreciate one another. And you know that one of them will win. You're just not really sure which one. And to be honest, it almost doesn't really matter. I think the final race was really brilliant because what it does is it solidifies their bond as racers and also solidifies their bond as a team. Because the film invests in developing its characters and the contrast between them, it achieves this level of emotional depth. It would have been lost if they focused solely on cheap thrills. And I don't know about you, but my audience was clapping, but it wasn't like an aggressive clapping like Top Gun Maverick where people were like, whoa. This was like a more like somber clapping. It was like a calm clapping where everyone was just like, good job, dude. Way to stick with it until the very end. Overall, I highly recommend this film. If you're expecting a Top Gun, you will be disappointed because it doesn't follow that formula whatsoever. This is a deeply character-driven story that balances its characters very well. And I highly recommend you see this in IMAX if you can. If not, just see it on any screen possible. And until next time.